Okay, I understand we have a few people coming in yet. We'll just give them a minute to get in there. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. I believe everybody's in. If they're not, they'll come in shortly. Okay, let's rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Clerk, can you do the roll call of elected officials?
Supervisor Adams?
Here.
Trustees Anderson?
Here.
Rickstraw?
Here.
Wojcicki?
Present.
Here?
Here.
All present.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna, our first thing on the agenda is public comment. The first person I have on this agenda is a Terry Capel, I believe. Terry, if you want to come up to the mic, give your name and the city you live in.
Terry Capel? Terry Capel?
Here.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
I thought we were going to give the addresses, people, so they know who's actually living in town.
They only have to give their name and the city they live in, Mr. Bear, according to the statute that I found out.
What is the statute?
You have to text our term.
Okay. Terry Capel, Mchenry. In considering the termination of the bus service, there's been a lot of talk about cost. I don't think some costs have been taken into account. For example, the cost of restoring the bus service should the township, which appears, at least by the attendance at these meetings, decide to reinstate it. What's going to be the cost of retraining personnel? What's going to be the cost of reinstating the bus overall? Also, what is the cost for McRide or Pace to replace the township bus? If they have extra people to serve, what's that going to cost taxpayers compared to what they're paying right now for the township bus? What is going to be the cost of legal fees to the township for the anti-discrimination investigations? What's the cost to the economy to have disabled and senior citizens spending more on rides personally or not being able to get to their destinations? What's the cost to the economy for family and friends to take off work, to take someone to shopping, doctors, or other needs? And how much revenue will be lost to the township if tax breaks are given to the wealthy business owners that is going to be considered tonight? But aside from cost, it doesn't seem to me that the consideration of value has been taken into account. What is the value of a person? What is the value to the community? What is the lost value if a person can't get to their health, take care of their health, or go to places like a restaurant or store. In the Constitution of the United States, in the preamble, it mentions promoting the general welfare. Many consider this statement in various ways, but generally speaking, I think it's fair to say that it reflects concern of the government for the health, peace, morality, and safety of its citizens. If citizens cannot get to places they need to be, are you taking care of their health, or are you blocking their needs for health? And what about their need to enjoy being independent and being able to do the things they need to do? I think those are values that you can't find on a business ledger. And I hope that this board will reconsider and reinstate the township bus, and at least let the public have a vote in March to decide whether they specifically want this service removed or whether they want to keep it. Thank you.
I have a Nancy Felix. Nancy Felix. Do you don't want to speak? Okay. I have a Doris Kaplan. Do you want to speak?
My name is Doris Capel, and we have 3 trustees on the board of the township that want to eliminate the bus service with the township for senior citizens and people with disabilities. And their claim is that we have a bus service with the PACE. They don't know how that company runs their operations. They never get people there on time, and you're lucky if they show up or if you have a ride home. And my suggestion to everyone that's in this room, if the 3 trustees that we all know who they are file a claim and a report with the Department of Human Rights for being discriminating against seniors and people with disability. And we need all the help we can get to stop this corruption that these 3 individuals want to do to people.
Next, I have a Bob Hendricks. Heinrich, excuse me. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Bob Heinrich from Wonder Lake, and after Monday night's meeting, and I'm assuming that the minutes have been received by all of the trustees for that meeting. Well, the newspaper pretty much reflected it this morning in terms of the next actions that are going to take place, and I would exhort you, gentlemen, to not only reconsider, but to change your vote to maintain the bus service for the disabled and the seniors. It's not a matter of dollars, as the other man said, it's a matter of values, it's a matter of common decency. The people that are going to be most affected are people who have paid into this taxing situation for many, many years, and they're not looking to make money, they're looking for the service that they've come to believe is going to be there when they need it. When I need it in the next few years, I would hope it's there too. We don't drive forever, and we don't live forever. So let's do what we should do as a community of responsible people that were formed on Christian values and do the right thing. Thank you.
Next, I have a Diane Carroll, C-A-R-L. Carroll.
Diane Carroll from Mchenry. When Pearl Harbor was bombed, Bob Carroll, my father-in-law, he lied about his age and he joined the Army. He was injured, but he continued fighting for our great country. Came home, he married, he raised 3 boys. He worked 2 jobs most of the time so he could support his family. When he retired, he came to Mchenry because he knew how much his son Tom loved this community. He was a very generous and a very giving man. He volunteered at his church, he volunteered at many community events, and gentlemen, he volunteered over 18,000 hours at the Mchenry Hospital. Unfortunately, in his 80s, he became disabled. Gentlemen, you suggest he use Pace Bus. He tried. This war veteran feared walking down his driveway in his walker, later his wheelchair, and then standing in the street. You suggest Mchenry Volunteer Service. He tried. They can only do so much. That they cannot help those in wheelchairs and those that need additional assistance and those that are not ambulatory. He was blessed the day he had a Mchenry Township bus pull up his driveway and assist him. And how he loved his driver. How he loved his driver, Casper. He became his friend, and he felt safe. Gentlemen, I ask that you would please reconsider your decision, your vote. Please don't take the dignity and the independence from our elderly and our disabled. Thank you.
Next, I have a Don Petrie, or Petrie, P-E-T-R-I-E. In order to speed this along, Tom Hanlick, can you get up and back of the podium here for the next comment? Tom Hanlick, something like that? H-A-L-C-I-U-T? No, how about Margaret Bissell? All right, we'll get to there next. Okay, go ahead, Tom.
My name's Don Petrie, Mchenry. I'm a 7-year resident of Mchenry, and I don't understand why the senior bus program is an issue with this township board. Between grants, fares, and the amount paid by the tax-paying parcels, it's minute. This board talks about tax reform, but from my 2018 property taxes, which I pay, removing the senior bus program is nowhere near real tax reform. Let me give you an example. My share is 1/12 of 1%, or about $8.06. Let me repeat that. 1/12 of 1%, $8.06. That's my share for the senior bus program. And that's yearly. Now let's compare that to the school system. I pay 73.66%. Again, 73.66% of my tax dollars, or $4,953.44, of which I do not currently, nor have I ever had a child in the school system. But I understand that the importance of we, as a community, are to stand together and make sure our youth has the proper education they need for their future. So should we also stand up with our elders in our community and support the importance of the senior bus service. And I know this is only one example, a good example, but my time's limited. So in conclusion, as a registered voter and an up-to-date taxpayer of Mchenry Township, I respectfully ask this board, respectfully urge this board to reconsider their vote and support the continuance of the Mchenry Township Senior Bus Program. Thank you.
I have a Tom Vicell, V-I-C-E-L-L, no? And then I have a Margaret Vicell, V-I-C-E-L-L. Okay, not coming forward? Okay. I have a Judy Wall Smith.
Good evening. My name is Judy Wall Smith. I live in Mchenry, and I have a few things I was wondering to ask the board. What happens when the bus service stops? What are these people going to do that are in need? I'm a volunteer at the fish pantry, and today we had a lady that was very, very upset because she didn't have our bus. She had to take Pace, and the driver would not get out of the seat to help her. He did, and we helped her get out, and then she had to pay for it, and she didn't have the money. And, you know, she was really, really upset. And I'm a non-smoker, but I'm just guessing a pack of cigarettes is roughly $8. So if one person bought one pack of cigarettes, that's a year's worth of a ride for, you know, somebody else. And I think the greatest gift any of us can give is to help each other. And Bob, I'm sure you wouldn't give a haircut for under $8. I mean, you know, this is so foolish. Look at the people in here. If you gentlemen would be kind enough to help the people in need and just forget about this, admit that you're wrong, you will be bigger and better people if you just let this drop. As you look at all these people that are in here to help other people, because you know there are so many people, like I saw at the pantry today, they need help not only for the food, but like one lady said, I need a chair. We got her a chair. She couldn't take any more groceries because she couldn't, her back was so sore. So we got her a chair, we finished up, and she got more groceries. But I mean, it's so hard to believe that you gentlemen, with all the publicity, are allowing this to happen. Swallow your pride, admit you're wrong, and let's say
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having a problem with my timer here. Hold on. Okay. All right, I have a Mr. Ed Hederman from the Village of Johnsburg.
Thank you, and for allowing me to speak to you tonight, Board. As a taxpayer and resident, I do appreciate the efforts of this Township Board and understand the desire to provide for seniors in our community and also need to be frugal with our taxpayers' dollars. I'm here to request that you place an advisory question on the upcoming ballot asking the voters to decide whether or not the senior bus transportation program should continue. At the town meeting held Monday night, an overwhelming amount of township residents, according to the Herald, about 300 people, came out to express their desire to have this matter placed on the ballot. I hope you will consider your constituents' input and place the matter on the ballot and let the voters decide the future of the program. In the meantime, and since the monies for the bus service are already in the budget, I ask that you hold off on canceling the program until the results of the referendum are in. The seniors in our community
The seniors in our community pay taxes, they support our schools and other services. They do not utilize. I don't believe it is unreasonable for residents to support a program our seniors depend upon. Thank you for listening and giving consideration to this matter.
Next, I have a Joan Manley, Manley, I believe. No? There, yes. Come forward, please.
Hi, Joe Meany from Wonder Woods, and I've just been in the area for 15 years, and my neighbors are all my same age. So we're all turning 66 and 67, and we have no problem supporting the township, and I just have good questions on why a vote of 247 to 2 isn't considered that you need to support your constituents. Thank you.
Next, I think it was crossed out, but Ruth Dunn Schmidt, did you want to speak? No? Okay. Carol Hanrahan, or Carla, pass. V. Paul Hanrahan, pass. Pass. Okay. Brian McCaffrey. We know for past meetings, Brian, it's a little handicapped, he'll get her.
Here, what?
Take the microphone to him.
You know he's not going to. He wants to.
Good evening. My name is Brian McCaffrey. I live in Wonder Lake. It's good to see all the trustees here tonight. I'm sure that those of you who are absent heard about what went on last meeting about the 2 votes that were taken. What was very impressive was the size of the public attendance that night. It was so large that this room was virtually filled front to back and side to side with concerned citizens, much like tonight. So something made each of them to feel the need to be here. 247 out of 249 people in attendance voted to have this board reconsider your vote to eliminate the senior bus service. Tonight is your chance to do so and to change your vote and keep this important and vital service for our senior and disabled residents. If you don't want to help them, our seniors, and are disabled, then why are you here? To save us $8 a year in our tax bill, while denying those who have used this service over 12,000 times over the course of a year. You have heard dozens of our residents speak about this issue and have seen the results of Monday's votes. I pray that you have looked within yourselves and have come to the understanding how important this service is to the people that you serve. I pray also that during your introspection that your hearts have softened. Even the Grinch's heart grew 3 times in one day. It will take only one of you to be the hero tonight. Who's it going to be? Let your ego go and follow your heart. Show the people in Mchenry Township that you really care about them. Thank you.
Brian Arnold.
I have some facts here about the other bus services. The Peace Bus, it costs $1.75 just to pick you up. They charge you 25 cents a mile. They want you to call 2 weeks in advance for a ride. If you call days in advance, they can't guarantee you a ride. They can't guarantee they will be on time because they have a set schedule. And not all the buses even have handicap access.
Wow.
Think about that. Now the Veteran Bus will only drive you to the North Chicago VA. That's all they do. The Mercy Bus? The Mercy will only take you to Mercy doctors and Mercy hospitals. And you have to call 2 weeks in advance to get a ride. Centennial Patient Express will not take you to the doctor, any doctor. Will not guarantee you a ride at all. And will only drive you to the hospital. Now Faith is Action, this one's really interesting. You have to be over 60. You have to sign up to receive services. They conduct a background check on you. You have to be mobile, you can't be in a wheelchair. You have to be able to walk out to the curb and walk onto the bus. You need 3 days notice. Only if they have volunteer available will they drive you. And they will ask you if you live in the Mchenry Township. If you say yes, they won't pick you up because they will say it's the township's duty to drive you. On a personal note, I just want to say to you three gentlemen who decided to eliminate this bus, we are a wall. Our community is a wall. You are banging your heads against. You will not hurt us. You will not eliminate this bus service. You will only hurt yourselves.
Next I have a Julie Ann Thomas.
Julian Thomas of Wonder Lake. I have a few more services to add that Brian talked about. Senior service. You have to be 60 years old. They are senior volunteers driving their own car. No wheelchairs. You must be mobile because they can't assist you because they're seniors too. And it must be a need. Why? But need is you have to go to the doctor, the hospital, to the bank, to the store. They will not take you to work. They will not take you to lunch. They will not take you to the senior center or any recreational activities because they just can't because it's volunteer based. McRide. McRide, they serve a lot of this county and they're so overrun. So again, they cannot guarantee service on time. Last week I needed to go to the doctor and I had to take McRide. They were a half an hour late to pick me up and I almost missed my doctor's appointment. And when you get to the doctor runs on a schedule. You show up more than 15 minutes late, they don't see you and they don't care if you had problems getting there. McRide with their door-to-door service. Some riders may need that, and in order for McRide to do that, they have to get written permission from PACE to be able to get out of their bus and walk up to the door and help you. Where when you take the township bus, they automatically get out to help you. It's not even an ask, do you need help? I mean, I feel bad when they help me with my walker because I'm still somewhat able to get it up the stairs. But PACE and McRide try, but they are so overwhelmed because they do the whole McHenry County, not just this township. I also discovered the PACE buses are not all set up for disability people or for seniors because when I went to get on a PACE bus the other day, there was no room to get my walker through the aisle. The person in the front seat had to get up and let me sit down, and that person was disabled too. But I would not have been able to get through to the back of the bus where the only seats were. I couldn't get it this way, and I couldn't get it sideways. And that's a big thing. And now on a personal thing. I've lived here now for 21 years. I moved out into this town when I was pregnant with my second child, and I already had a 4-year-old. Used to drive around and used to think, my God, I see the buses, I heard all about the township. We picked the right place to come and raise our children. I am very proud of the education system here because my kids got wonderful educations. Very proud of that. But as far as now, I always thought that when I saw the senior buses, 30, 40 years before I got one on. But all of a sudden, one morning at 53, I wasn't driving anymore. I'm a risk to get behind the wheel of a car. I'm going to end this on a thing. Please reconsider. 247 people showed up here Monday night and you couldn't take the time to be here. Just remember that.
Mike Toller, next please.
Mike Dollar, Wonder Lake. Hello, gentlemen. Nice to see you again. So, this whole time, you guys have been standing on the platform that you are a tax fighter, that this is what you were elected for, that you had a mandate from the people. Well, between the meeting earlier this week and the meeting tonight, I don't think you have the mandate you think you do. Tonight, you have a chance to correct yourselves. There's a saying that I like, that it's almost a personal motto to me. When an honest man finds out that he's mistaken, he either ceases to be mistaken or he ceases to be an honest man. $12,572 rides. That's 34 rides a day. $7.75 a year per parcel. It's about 2 cents a day. When you divide those two by each other, you come out to 0.06 of a cent. That's the cost per ride to each one of these taxpayers. That's the tax you're fighting. Is this the hill that you want to die on here? Is this what you're going to stand on? 0.06 of a cent. Thank you.
I have a Jamie Grubich.
Jamie Grubich from Mchenry. I just want to let you know that I'm all very inspired by all the people that come and support this. I believe there is a complete need for this service, but I also believe there might be a more positive and better way to go about getting funds to support this and all the people at Brave Hearts, Mainstay, the Alexander Lehigh Center for Autism, Gigi's Playhouse, the Pioneer Center, and all the senior services that are provided throughout the county. I see it as a county problem, not just a township problem, because there's only a few townships that have duplicate bus services. So I think it's a bigger problem than that. I don't want to see anyone that has true hardship have an even harder time going forward in the future. But I see the need to have all of our government units working together and all of our people in our community together supporting, not fighting against each other. I'm thinking about a time maybe next August where we would have something that was like a community event for the county, where mayors, the county leadership, people from the other service organizations, the directors from the organizations that I mentioned, got together and said, we're gonna eliminate, or we're gonna take the money that we would receive from all the restaurants for alcohol, for gambling, for food that we collect in this weekend and dedicate it to people with severe needs and real disabilities. I would see raffles going on throughout the county, big raffles, big dollars generated. If people have big hearts and they really want to do something big for the community, we need to take our ability to organize and do something bigger. I think that people want to spend time with their families doing what they want to do. I'm not saying you have to go to a particular restaurant. I'm saying everybody go out the whole weekend. Go to breakfast, go to lunch, go to dinner, go to a beer tent, stay out. Get corporate sponsors to help out by having entertainment at some of the venues so people stay longer, spend more money. Have people from the senior services going around collecting 50-50 raffles at all the restaurants. And then I'm also suggesting something like this, that all the people that have different hobbies that they like to do, that they, throughout the county, we might have a motorcycle rally that weekend where people would meet at the Pioneer Center and they would go off in waves of 25. They would ride throughout the county and they would come back to there. They would spend their money at gambling. They would go on a rally, pay $50 donation to ride for the event, go to different places that have gambling, spend their token there, and money goes back to this cause. I would...
Please finish up.
Okay. So one of the other things was like a cruise event where the people that like to do the cruise cars ask them to do another event where they go through the county.
Please be respectful.
How about the boaters? How about a boat parade down the Mchenry River to the Algonquin and back? Everybody that gets in participates. They're doing something they want to do. They're paying big money to donate to these causes. I've got a running event. I've got a bicycle event that would start at Gigi's Playhouse and end up through Go Valley and Wonder Lake at the Mainstay Horse Farm. I think that wine tasting, dog walking, meat raffles, special bingo event, there's a lot of other things we can do with positive energy to come together as a community for the future, maybe not just this particular item that we're talking about, but to really help people with disabilities and to really help people in need. And everybody has some skin in the game. The Pioneer Center people make gratitude bags that are handed out to everybody who participates and donates. They're at the restaurants. They're at these places where they kick off and register. Time expired. Hey, nobody likes my idea. No.
Nice try. I think it's a wonderful idea.
I don't think it took, I did, just ran out of time. Okay. Next, Robert Beltran.
Couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry. Robert Beltran.
The mic is not working.
I understand that. I'm trying to do the best I can. Robert Beltran.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Robert Beltran. I've spoken to you folks before about this subject as well as others, but given the results of that meeting on Monday night, given the number of people who expressed their interest and their concern over this matter, I have to ask, and I hope that maybe we'll find out tonight, what it will take, what will it take for you folks to change your mind about this matter, because people who are disabled and elderly, for example, if they don't have the ability to get around within Mchenry Township, they do have one other alternative that hasn't been discussed so far. That is that they, or with the assistance of their families or the encouragement of their families, are going to have to leave the township. They're going to have to move to Lake County or someplace that, or Algonquin Township or someplace else that has a appropriate kinds of mobility that they can make use of. Are we going to have to put up signs? You'll have to allocate a few $1,000s to put up signs as people approach Mchenry Township to say that if you are fit and young, you are welcome here. All others, try somewhere else. I'm not a religious person, but I do appreciate wisdom that is found in religious books. And for those of you who are believers, I ask you, please read the Sermon on the Mount, which is the quintessence of the New Testament, which says, what you do to the least of us, you do to me. And think about that. And again, this is coming from a man who is not religious. But we have to be our brother's keepers. That's why we're a community. And if we're not a community, what are we? Thank you.
Next, I have a Jude Gottlieb.
Judy Gottlieb from Mchenry. I'm wondering whether, as board members, whether you have talked with the organizations that you do volunteer work with, that you have received assistance from. Like Mike, I know, has gotten a lot of rides from people in his church. I think it's important to talk to those people to find out how they would handle a very large increase in the required need to help people. I personally would much rather spend $8 a year of my tax money and have it available for anyone who has the need in the township to receive that kind of assistance when they need it. Not everybody needs it all the time, but all of us are likely to need it sometime. I mean, sometime we're going to be in a wheelchair. Sometime we may not have a spouse or a kid to drive us around. So I just urge you to, I urge you to reconsider your decision, but in any case, you do need to talk with these volunteer organizations that you're expecting to pick up a large responsibility.
Next, I have Mike Hagee.
For those of you that were here on Monday night, you heard me invoke Ronald Reagan's policy. Ronald Reagan said, "We don't dislike people, we dislike policies." I hope you were watching, Bob, on YouTube, because I made a point of saying, I like you. But this policy is wrong. This policy is contrary to Republican values. I would also invoke President Lincoln's second inaugural address. His words were, "With malice toward none, with charity toward all. Let us bind up," well, I'm going to paraphrase here, "the township's wounds."
An associate pastor at my church told a story about when he went fishing with some folks from a native village in the Philippines where he was serving. He said they didn't take any rods or reels, any nets, and he wondered how they were going to catch fish. When they got out to the fishing grounds, they started tossing dynamite over the side. Well, okay, that's one way to catch fish. But the analogy here is that while cutting costs is a noble goal, some ways to do it are ethical and some are not. Some are in line with Republican values and some are not. And I would say that if you believe that this policy is good policy, well, then you probably believe that blast fishing is good policy too. What do you say we all get together and try it at Wonder Lake?
Next I have Tim Lavin.
Hi, Tim Lavin, Wonder Lake. I'm really up here to beat a dead horse. Pace can't handle the volume of people if the senior bus goes away. They're so backed up and low on drivers that they have their safety driver out, and he's not training any new people. So adding 25, 30, 40, 50 trips a day, 60, is not going to be feasible, and you're going to be leaving a lot of your constituents stuck at home, unable to go out, and wondering why you guys decided to cancel the bus service. I know we provide a lot of door-to-door service. We actually just started tracking the door-to-door service, and it's coming up to be quite a lot that Pace doesn't do. Kind of like what Craig did. When we had a gentleman who had a walker, instead of having him walk up here, we gave him the microphone. It's the difference between Pace and Township. When you've got your coworkers telling you that you're wrong, when you have your party telling you that you're wrong, more importantly, when you have your voters telling you that you're wrong, maybe you should sit back and think, am I doing the right thing for the people? Because for the people, by the people, it's kind of an important thing in politics, and it's been lost a lot lately, but what really matters is you're beholden to these people, and 2 people versus 200 people saying, get rid of it, keep it. You've had hundreds of people up here saying keep it, and the silent majority that you guys say that $8 a year, $8.16, as he pulled his taxes up, and all these people who say $8.16 isn't that much to pay to get all of our seniors and disabled people to church, jobs, doctors, all their appointments on time, instead of an hour and a half, 2 hours late, picked up an hour and a half, 2 hours after their appointment ended, kind of important.
Okay, please finish.
Next, we have Barb Clauston. Barb Clauston.
Good job.
Is this on? Hi, I'm Barb Tyson. I'm from Wonder Lake. Can you hear me? Yeah. No. Barb Tyson. I'm from Wonder Lake. I am also the Greenwood Township Supervisor. And I thought that I would show up tonight and tell you firsthand because we do have McBride service. And I think as trustees, it's important for you to know kind of how that operates. I have to have people that come into my township for appointments, and I would think majority of them, they don't have a car, so they have to depend on McBride. Most of the people here talked about getting to doctor's appointments and important things like that. You have to call McBride a couple of days before to schedule a pickup if you're going to the doctor's office. You're shaking your head no. Do you think that that's not true?
Go to the website. It says 24 hours.
All right, now let me throw this at you. You have a doctor's appointment set up. You go to the website. They can't do it that day. Now this person that's had this doctor's appointment, as we all know, they can go for 1 to 2 months ahead of time. They can't make that doctor's appointment because they can't get a ride. And I know that you're not in that position where you have friends and things, but these people don't. This is what they have to rely on. And I get these calls all the time. I'm sure Debbie or Craig, they get them all the time. How are they going to get from point A to point B? I know a lot of times I've had to go and pick someone up because it was a last minute thing. I think as a trustee, you have to practice due diligence and you should know what you've exposed your constituents to. You have to come up with a solution. You have to have something that you've backed that up with when you made this decision. And you can't just make a decision without really doing research and knowing how it's going to affect everyone. I get people to my township, McBride drops them off, they might be there an hour ahead of time, but the bus can't come and pick them up for 2 to 3 hours after their appointment. So they will be sitting in a doctor's office, or they will be sitting in my office, unless I don't have appointments and I'll drive them home, but they'll be sitting there for a couple of hours. I don't think you would appreciate the inconvenience in your personal life if that was the case. So I guess what I'm telling you is you really have to do a little bit more investigating, know what the consequences are, know how the system works before you eliminate it. Thank you.
Microphone. Barb, Mr. Blue would like to ask you a question.
If I may.
If you would like to answer it.
You're the supervisor of Greenwood Township? Perhaps you could explain why Greenwood Township doesn't have a township senior bus service.
Because we're a small rural township and we don't have the resources.
We do.
We do.
So you're telling us to do something you won't do yourself. Great.
We're getting government funding.
We're working on solving this mic problem. Okay, everybody please be respectful. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Okay, I don't have anybody else signed up. Does anybody else like to speak before I move on? That woman in the back of the room, please state your name and where you live.
Hi, my name is Corey Huff, and I've lived in Mchenry pretty much my whole life. We've owned our home for 25 years. My mom, 9 years ago, lost her car in a car accident, and she suffers from anxiety and depression, and so she's not gotten another car, and she's been using the bus for the last 9 years. She's taken both the PACE bus and the township bus. She's had a lot of issues with the PACE bus. I'm thankful that we have it, but she's had a lot of issues, and it causes her more anxiety when she can't get to where she needs to go on time. And quite honestly, the last couple of weeks, I have not even told my mom that as of right now, the township bus is going to be canceled because it will shoot her anxiety through the roof. And then I got to deal with it. I do help my mom out as much as I can, but I work, and my husband works, and we have kids too. But she just mentioned something yesterday, ironically, on how much she loves the township bus, because again, it's reliable. When she goes grocery shopping, she actually has room for her groceries on the bus. She doesn't have room for groceries when she takes the PACE bus. And she actually said, I don't know what I'd do without the PACE bus. And so it allows, without the township bus. Because it's keeping her independent. She's 69 years old, which isn't old, but again, she has some pretty good anxiety and depression. And I really hope this township bus isn't canceled, because it's going to cause a lot more problems for her, and I know a lot more, so thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak up?
Please give her name. Didn't see you there, sorry.
Sorry, my name is Eric. I live in the Sticky Islands. I worked for School District 12. I worked for School District 12. And I used the bus system to get township, basically, to get back and forth from home to work and vice versa. I will lose the system, and it's not just me that will lose the system. I've heard senior citizens come up, I've heard parents of those senior citizens, and sometimes parents and sons and daughters. But you're forgetting a minority, and that is the disabled, that is mentally disabled. And if you do not basically reconsider, then fine, we'll go. Then the Attorney General can just figure this thing out. Before this township lapses under your own power, please reconsider, or else all three of you will be held responsible for your own actions and whatever actions you may take next. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to, oh, there's another person at the podium, go ahead. Name and where you reside.
My name is Kelly Burke. I live in Sticky Highlands. I'm here to smoke. I'm sorry. I'm nervous about public speaking, but I'm going to read something. Township talk. The recent Mchenry Township special meeting, 270 to 0 vote, involving non-mandated bus program, amounted to a cheap political stunt. This so-called beauty of the township government, said the township supervisor Greg Adams to the Northwest Herald. Townships, get rid of them. Would you like to know who said that? Bob Anderson. This is not about eliminating the bus. This is about eliminating the townships, piece by piece. Mr. Mayor, keep like saying there's other bus services, and people get up from the services or taking the other services, and they tell you they're not adequate. They don't provide the service. My son tried to use the dial-a-ride. It wasn't going to get him to work on time. So if he doesn't have the township bus, he won't be able to get to work. I can't drive him. I work. I have to work. My husband has to work. So he's most likely going to lose his job. And that will be on the three of you.
Okay, well, else at the podium.
I'm Rhonda Sparrow. I'm from Mchenry. I'll tell you a little story that happened Monday. I had a volunteer to take somebody to this meeting on Monday. She does not have any function in her legs. I can't imagine. I tried putting her at her house, had a lot of trouble, tried putting her wheelchair in my car, had a lot of trouble. Thank God for the Pace bus, not the Pace bus, the Mchenry Township bus, so she could have some kind of life, because there was no other way. I know there's no way she could take the other mode of transportation, because they can't handle her. To get her on the bus, to get her wheelchair up there, and to help her back in the house. She can't even get out to the car without somebody helping her. And this is what you're doing by taking away her one way of getting out, is by taking the senior express for the disabled seniors away. You're hurting people that cannot help themselves unless you give them the equipment to help themselves, and that bus is a service that helps them. Please, one of you change your mind and keep that bus going. We need an express bus. The Pace bus doesn't help because you can't get your wheelchair on there. McBride cannot take the wheelchair. You're not listening to people. You're just doing what you want to do, and you're hurting a lot of people that is a need. And you're wasting a lot of money now. That's going to be an upcoming lawsuit that can be used for the bus services. Please, one of you change your mind.
Next, please name and where you live.
Dave Trost, Mchenry. This is from the McBride website. If you're using McBride for both legs of a trip, remember to make both trip reservations at the same time. Seniors and individuals with a disability have to reserve trips up to 7 days in advance. General public can reserve their trips 24 hours in advance. That's all.
I just have a couple of comments. Why are you serving? You are to serve the people, and you should see how everybody wants this service. What are you getting out of this? You're just hurting a lot of people. Swallow your pride, and people will have more respect for you. People have lost so much respect for you, and we have a wonderful township, and I think you are trying to get rid of it. And we really need it. Thank you.
Hi, Shelley Junker from Wonder Lake. I would just like to say that I've seen firsthand how the Mchenry Township bus helps the elderly. I had a neighbor that used to go grocery shopping. They used to help her on the bus. They used to help her with her groceries. They did not rush her. She was a little nervous because she was elderly, and they took their time with her. These people have become family to the bus drivers. These people are somebody that should be respected and not disrespected. The elderly and the disabled should be the utmost respect. They should have their bus so they can have a little independence, because the Pace bus won't take care of them like the Mchenry Township bus will. And I know that firsthand. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Okay, right here. Let's bring the microphone.
Hi, this is a quick thought I have. I am a disabled senior, and I've been listening to everything that's been said. Sorry, I'm goofing up.
You're okay.
Can't hear you. And we do need this bus. From everything I've heard, there are many people that are, not only me, a lot of people that desperately need this bus. I see no reason why you to cancel it, other than ego that's getting to you. Well, put your ego away and give people what they want. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay. I turned it off for feedback.
Okay. No one else wants to speak at this time, right? Okay, I wanted to include everybody. Okay, so we're going to move down the agenda.
We have the
approval of the minutes of the regular township board meeting on July 11th. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Ritter.
The board members comment, these pages aren't numbered, unfortunately, so sort of near the end, after the highway commissioner's report. These are not my quotes, and I don't know where Mr. Aylward has gotten them from, but this is not going to be seen on the actual record. So if you will not change it to comport with what was actually said instead of making things up, I would ask that the ethics officer look at that, what the comments were, and resolve this.
Mr. Ritter, are you talking under board member comments, trustee Veer?
Correct.
And you're saying that you didn't say those comments?
No.
All right. Can we move that we take a look at the record on the YouTube video and decide what was actually said, because it's still available, and then we'll either amend it or approve it as is next month?
That's fine.
Okay. So Mr. Veer's comments are, so we'll take the minutes for this time, and we'll come back to next month to see what the actual video said.
As an additional matter, on the public comments section, there's a lot of unknowns here. Okay, now all those people gave their name when they spoke, so I don't know why they aren't identified.
Mr. We'll have to look at the video again and see if we can identify who those are. So we'll table the minutes until next meeting. Is that okay, everybody? That's my motion. Do we have a second?
I got a complaint. I got one.
Okay.
Change here too. A correction. On number 8, it says, board did not discuss ways to eliminate public comments. We weren't discussing ways to eliminate public comment. My motion was to have public comment, third item, and have it where you would not eliminate the second one. There was not one word spoken. I said, want public comment, because I support public comment. I just want to change, we didn't have that. So I think that's gotta be changed there. I don't want someone to read the minutes looking at that I don't like public comment, because that's not true.
Oh, okay, your objection is noted. We'll review the video and get the exact verbiage for the next meeting. Is that my motion? Is that okay with everybody? In the meantime, we'll table the minutes.
Then there's a final matter on C, resolution that the township may not enter into a contract without the board's approval. I guess it's on page 1, 2, 3, 6. All right. Somehow that's not on the agenda, even though it was specifically requested for today.
I will let Mr. Militello address that.
This is regarding C, the adding to the website. I believe there's going to be some discussion on that ability to add it to the website. We don't have it on the minutes tonight. I wanted to get a plan together and bring it to the board regarding contracts, whether it's going to be done on a item-by-item basis as approved by the board itself, or what those limitations were going to be as far as contracts, because there was discussion on the last meeting. I kind of noted that you as a board enter in a lot of different contracts, utility bills, things like that, and I didn't know that, I didn't think the board wanted to put those types of contracts on the website. So what I wanted to be able to do is bring it back to the board, and we'll get it on the agenda for next month, if that's all right.
And there was also the matter of getting these contracts on the website too.
Correct. That's what I'm talking.
But I also made notice of that too, so if that was a change, it would have been nice, Greg, if you put a little line in there that there was a change on that would not be on the agenda, and make some kind of maybe a one-line explanation of that, because I expected it to be on the agenda too.
I understand that, and next time I can do that, I consulted with the attorney, and we didn't understand what the definition of contracts was, so he wanted to come back and
define that,
so we could intelligently discuss it, and we will put it on the next agenda.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
I would have just like to have an explanation.
I understand that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to take a minute. We need a vote. All those in favor of table the minutes till the research for next meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any nays? None being heard or table till the next meeting. We move to executive session.
Wait, did somebody make a motion for that?
I'm sorry, I make a motion. I'm sorry, I made a motion. We need a second.
Did we get a second?
We did not get a second. Please, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, now let's have a roll call. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
aye. Any opposed?
Any opposed? None being heard, the motion is passed. Okay, we're moving on to the motion for the approval of receipts and bills for the town fund.
I've got that. We, the undersigned members of Mchenry Township Board of Trustees, certify that we have this 8th day of August 2019 examine and audit the amounts due for the items specified in the claims attached, and hereby authorize payments of the same. Total reimbursements to be approved, 0. Total bills to be approved, $33,499.81. Total bills paid prior to audit, $37,563.26. Total be approved, $71,063.07. Total receipts, $9,249.90. I move to accept the receipts and pay the bills for the town fund.
Okay, Mr. Anderson has moved to accept the receipts and pay the bills for the town fund. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Rakestraw. We need a roll call vote. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Rakestraw? Mr. Adams, yes. Mr. Wojcicki?
Yes.
Mr. Veer?
Yes.
Okay, all yeses, motion passes. Next, we're moving on to the motion for the approval of receipts and bills for the general road and bridge fund.
The undersigned members of the Mchenry Township Board of Trustees certify that we have, on this 8th day of August 2019, examined and audited what to do for the items specified in the claims attached, and thereby authorize payments of total reimbursements to be approved, $0. Total bills to be approved, $31,597.83. Total bills prior to audit, $20,117.63. Total to be approved, $51,715.45. Total receipts, $43,305.96. I make a motion that we accept the bills and the receipts and pay the bills.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Rakestraw to accept the receipts and pay the bills for the general road and bridge fund. May we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Wojcicki. Let's have a roll call vote. Mr. Veer?
Yes.
Mr. Wojcicki?
Yes.
Mr. Adams, yes. Mr. Rakestraw?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Okay, all yeses, motion passes. Let's move on to the motion for the approval of receipts and bills for the permanent hard road fund.
For the permanent hard road fund, total reimbursements to be approved, 0. Total bills to be approved, $45,252.33. Total bills paid prior to audit, $14,918.89. Total to be approved, $60,171.22. Total receipts, $5,402.25. I would like to make a motion to accept the receipts and to pay the bills.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Wojcicki to accept the receipts and pay the bills for the permanent hard road fund. I will second that motion. Let's have a roll call vote. Mr. Rakestraw?
Yes.
Mr. Wojcicki?
Yes.
Mr. Adams, yes. Mr. Veer?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
All yeses, motion passes. Okay, I'd like to move to new business now, but if it would be okay with everybody, I'd like to move letter B first, because I think it will be a lot easier discussion than letter A. Is that okay with everybody?
Why do you want to change it?
Because I think letter B will go much quicker, or letter A might take a very long time, but it's up to you guys.
Well, how do we know it's much quicker?
I guess we don't, so if you don't want to change it, we'll move as we go.
I don't want to change it.
Anybody else want to change it? Okay, no, so then we're going to go with letter A first. Request by the township electors from August 5th, 2019 special town board meeting, 247 ayes, 2 nays, 0 abstentions, that the Mchenry Township Board of Trustees reconsider the vote to eliminate the Mchenry Township bus transportation program. Is there any discussion on that?
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead. First, I'd like to make a motion for discussion. Can I have a second to that?
I'll second.
Second it.
I know what's going to happen. What's going to happen is 2 years from now, when our term is up, we're going to get thrown out on our ear. And these
Please respect his comments.
And these folks are going to vote in another board, and that other board is going to reinstate the bus service. So what we're doing here is we're just creating a lot of anguish, because all this stuff's going to come back anyway. Furthermore, I think the federal government approves of our bus service. Why would they give us $50,000 in a grant if they didn't? Well, it was to that.
It was 30-some thousand with another 15,000 from the county.
The county, and well, that's another one. The county quoted with their dollars.
Yes, they did.
So that tells me they support the bus service. Also, Pace Bus, they give us brand new buses for $100 a month. So that tells me that they're also supporting the service, and they know they were creating a niche that nobody else can fill.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wojcicki. With that, go ahead, Mr. Veer, did you want to make a comment?
I have some questions for the supervisor, just so we can clear the air in here.
I can't hear you.
I have.
I can't hear you.
Dad. Hold it in front of your face. No, the battery's down.
Is this working?
There you go. Some questions for the supervisor.
Certainly, Mr. Veer.
All right. there never was a Saturday service for the Mchenry Township bus service, correct?
There never was, correct.
And the Sunday service that had been around, that was dropped by the unilateral action of you, not the board, correct?
That is correct, and I dropped that because I thought the board would reconsider the regular service.
And the McBride program actually operates for several hours a day beyond the time limits of the township program.
I believe that is also correct, yes.
And the McBride program operates on Saturdays and Sundays, which the township program does not.
I believe you are correct on that, yes.
So there's a lot of disinformation that was presented in the public comment equating the PACE program to the Mchenry Township program. The PACE program is a fixed point of service that's throughout the township. The McBride program is a program that takes disabled and elderly citizens of Mchenry Township as well as 4 other townships. Most of the townships are not included in that, as far as the county goes, including Greenwood Township.
I don't think that's true. I believe Greenwood Township is in the McBride program. Barb, can you verify that? Yes, she is. They are.
Yeah, I misspoke then. I meant that there is no separate township program in most of the townships in this county, including Greenwood.
There is a program in Algonquin and a partial program in Nunda at this time, yes.
And in fact, Grafton Township and Nunda Township discontinued their senior bus service years ago.
I can't speak for Grafton, but Nunda did discontinue their service a few years ago, yes.
So what we really have are parallel systems. And now that this county is in the top 100 property tax counties in the state, the taxpayers have certain rights too. Okay? I realize the Democratic
Okay, please
Party,
respect Mr. Burr's statement.
I realize the Democratic Party has had a show on foresters.
Mr. Ver, this is not a political. Okay, Mr. Ver, I object. This is not a political. This is a nonpartisan agenda.
There's a lot of people that are being taxed out of their homes in this county.
Okay, please respect Mr. Ver's statements, or I'll have to ask somebody to leave. Please keep it down. Please continue, Mr. Ver.
So the problem the trustees are faced with is a parallel program. And frankly, there's no justification for it.
Mr. Ver, you've heard from several people. It is not exactly a parallel program. It is different, and you said previously that senior services and senior volunteer network and the Veterans Assistance Center could handle these rides. You've been told by the agencies that that is not true.
I was told by the McBride Director of Operations that they could handle it.
I spoke to, who was the Director of Operations you spoke to?
It was a lady whose last name begins with an S.
She is not the Director of Operations. Mr. Hennings is the Director, and I spoke with him 3 days ago, and he told me they will do their best, but there definitely will be disruption of service.
Well, you know what?
You're wrong.
Something has to be cut. Maybe you could come up with some other cuts, Mr. Adams.
Mr. Beer, we went through various budget negotiations, and you never even suggested that we cut the bus service until after the budget negotiations were over. So don't give me that.
You've never come up with an alternative plan.
You didn't ask me to come up with an alternative plan in the budget negotiations. Did you, Mr. Beer, or any trustee here? Please tell me.
You are the person that makes over $100,000 a year.
I do not make over $100,000 a year, Mr. Beer. Please look at the website. I do not.
I said salary and benefits.
I do not make over $100,000 a year salary and benefits. Please look at the information on the website that closes disclosure.
think you would have enough time to come up with an alternative proposal.
You never asked me to come up with an alternative proposal, and I don't have one. This is my alternative.
Everyone says there's a crisis. Don't you see that?
Yes, and did you present an alternative proposal? No, you have not, Mr. Brewer.
You caused the crisis.
Moving on. I motion to take a vote on this. Any other discussion first?
I'd like to say that for 5 months, I asked you that when we go into the budget, I said, I'd like to see a budget without the cost of the bus service. You never presented that after 5 months of those meetings.
Mr. Anderson, if you asked me for that, I don't recall. Plus, you had the budget in front of you. All you had to do was take out the bus service, and you could have seen what the cost was. It was there.
But that's not what I was asking for. I was asking for you to take that out. You did not do that.
You could have taken it out in budget negotiations. You did not. You never even mentioned it. Mr. Veer, yes.
Are you standing by your proposition that the cost of the bus insurance, $5 million coverage per incident, for all 5 of the buses, is for an annualized expense $200 a year?
That is not correct, Mr. Veer. Well, for each bus, it's $1,000 a year for all of them. And if you don't believe that, we'll ask Torma to come in here and present that information to you. The attorney gave you that information already in previous meetings, and he certified, he talked to Torma, and that was the cost.
Well, that is not what was put on the website.
I am sorry, it was put on the website. It also showed workman's compensation costs, which you didn't ask me for before, which is additional, yes.
It says Torma $1,000.
That is correct, for the cost of the insurance of the buses.
That's what you said.
For each bus?
No, for the total buses, that's the yearly cost.
Okay, so that's 5 buses, so that's $200 each?
That is correct, that's what you just said.
$200 of insurance, up to $5 million coverage per incident for elderly and disabled personnel as passengers on a common carrier.
Mr. Veer.
In regular traffic, $200 a year.
That is the cost. It was certified by our attorney who talked to Torma. And Torma, I can ask them to come in here and tell you that. I'm sorry you don't believe it. It's a good insurance company.
Well, I don't think all the lines were represented.
All the lines were represented. I'm sorry that you refuse. You prove it different, Mr. Veer, because it is not different.
What you're asking us to believe is almost preposterous.
It is facts, Mr. Veer. It came from Torma Insurance Company. Our attorney called them, gave you that information, and I have not presented you with any false facts. Those are the facts.
Well, this is the first time I've heard the attorney.
Mr. Veer, we asked the attorney to call Torma. Do you not remember that, to check on all the policies? And he came back and told us what they were at one of our meetings.
That wasn't the cost of the policy.
Yes, it was. He presented it at one of our meetings.
Was Bear there?
Yes, he did. And if you want to refute that, I'll go back to the YouTube video and find it for you.
Well, let's have the attorneys talk about it.
Mr. Attorney, could you please present?
The cost of the insurance was never what was asked. All we were asking for is what was actually covered and what wasn't.
You did ask for the cost of insurance. He called them and came back, I believe, I could be mistaken, and said what it was.
I remember that also.
Mr. Stan also remembers. If you don't believe me, would you like me to get a certified letter from the insurance company? I'd be happy to do that.
Is that going to change your mind?
Yeah. And I'd like that put on the Township website too.
I'd be happy to put it on the Township website because you refuse to accept the facts.
I called the insurance company. I asked for a copy of the declaration. I don't know off the top of my head what that number was. I do recall that there was a very minimal amount for the insurance. How they allocated it, that was how they allocated it, not how I allocated it. But that insurance binder that did come back did provide for adequate we looked at it from making sure that the township buses were covered, number one. Number two, that there was adequate insurance on it. And as far as those two items, we did look at that. We had a conversation with Norma. They sent us the binder on it. If I recall, that cost, there was an allocation cost to it, and it may have been $1,000. I don't know how that $1,000 allocation was made by Norma. We didn't go into that.
Right. The allocations were never presented to the board.
That is not true. The allocations, if they weren't presented by Mr. Militello, I told you them, you asked me.
You waved around
Mr. Wojcicki, do you remember that?
During the budget hearings, I remember that, yes.
Thank you.
And the certification was merely an email you got from Torma.
It was. If you'd like a certified letter, I'd be happy to get it.
All right, yeah, I would.
Okay, we'll get it. In the meantime, I'm making a motion to call for a revote. Do I have a second?
I'd like to ask Bob a question.
Okay, first, go ahead.
Bob, you claim that you have a lot of supporters with this bus issue, right? Bob, you claim that you have a lot of supporters.
I have a lot of people that contact me and they're supportive of getting rid of the service and support what we've done, yes.
My question is, if this was so important to them, they would be in this room. And I don't know if
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wojcicki. I am calling, you know what, we can discuss this all night long, gentlemen. Let's call for a vote for the reconsideration. I call for a vote for the reconsideration to continue the Mchenry Township bus service at least, I'm gonna amend this motion, at least through April, because when we get to the next agenda item, this is gonna happen. It's gonna be on the ballot to see what the voters say. Can I get a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wojcicki. Any discussion?
Point of order. What is the change now?
The change is, I would ask, the motion has been to consider the bus, to reconsider the vote to move the bus service to go through the end of March until we see what the vote of the voters is in the March election, if they want to continue it or not. That is the motion in the second.
I think that's very reasonable.
You people all say the voters should vote on getting rid of the township, getting rid of the road district. Let's let them vote on getting rid of the bus service. And I'll be the first to say, if the vote comes back, the voters want to get rid of the bus service, I will vote yes to get rid of it. I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly what are we voting here?
You're voting? Okay. A yes vote is to continue the bus service until the end of this fiscal year, which will be March 31st, because you've already budgeted in the budget, you haven't taken it out. So the taxpayers aren't going to save a dime this fiscal year. And to continue it until we get the results of the election in March.
So what you're saying, a no vote is the bus service does not come back, correct?
A no vote is it does not come back. A yes vote is it does come back until March 31st. And it's already paid for. You're not going to save the taxpayers a dime in the meantime. So.
It costs $8 a year. That simply isn't true.
It is true. Tell me how you're saving the taxpayers a dime in the meantime by eliminating the bus service.
Because you're not paying for gasoline, drivers, and all the other.
It's still in the budget, Mr. Mayor. What's going to happen if you get rid of the item in the budget? It goes to reserves. It doesn't save the taxpayers a dime on their property tax bill next year. That is true. Refute that.
Mr. Militello, can you disabuse Mr. Andrews?
First of all, a budget appropriation ordinance is just that. It's the ability to spend money for the township. This board has already provided for that ability to be spent for this fiscal year through the end of March 31st. The levy is what is the document which actually encumbers the property and levies, and that's the document that you see with regard to your tax bill and you pay your taxes on it. Now, with regard to what the Supervisor Adams is saying is that should the money not be spent out of the budget appropriation ordinance, that money doesn't come back to the taxpayers. That's already been allocated, and that becomes part of the reserve fund. It's then whatever is done in the next levying section that has the impact on the taxpayers, so to speak.
And then it can come back to the taxpayer.
The only way anything comes back to the taxpayers is by two things. One, issuing a rebate to them, number one, or two, reducing the amount of the levy.
I don't want it.
And a rebate by the county can no longer be done at this point in time.
For this year.
For this year. Now, next year, when you reset a levy, you can change things, but as I pointed out, Mr. Bear, it's not going to save the taxpayers a dime until the next levy period if you choose to get rid of it. So the motion on the floor is let it continue until the end of March, which you've already levied and approved this entire board, or to the end of March to see what the vote comes back in the election in March 2020. If the voters so approve to keep the service, I hope you would continue to approve it. If they don't approve, I'm the first one to vote to get rid of it.
And also, if you talk about the referendum.
Microphone.
Yes, I'm listening.
If you're talking about the referendum, that is just an advisory referendum. That does not bring the bus service back.
It does not bring it back. It is only advisory, but I want to point out that your duty is to serve your constituents.
I'm just telling you, it's advisory.
Just for purposes of clarification, those are two separate questions, two different issues.
Yes, they are.
There are two different issues. So the current thing on the agenda is, or on the agenda, on the motion is to extend the bus service through March 31st, and then that's the motion, and then we will see what the referendum comes back as. So I'm calling the question. Roll call. Mr. Adams, yes. Mr. Veer?
No.
Mr. Wojcicki?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
No.
Mr. Rakestraw?
Present.
He only voted present, so the motion is tied, it does not pass. Doesn't pass. So as of this time, the motion did not pass. It is still canceled as of November 30th. Remember how your trustees voted. Okay, moving on. Okay, please keep, everybody's emotions are high, please keep decorum. Number B, a resolution certifying one question adopted at the special township meeting for the March 17th, 2020 election. Discussion and possible action. I will let Mr. Militello explain this.
On Monday, there was a special meeting of the township electors. Article 30, Section 30 of the Township Code provides for certain responsibilities that electors have. One of those responsibilities was, and authorities, was being able to put an advisory referendum together. An advisory referendum is just that. It's just advisory. It's not mandatory. It's not permanent. It's just advisory. What it does say, though, is that upon a majority of vote, then it comes to this township board. Now, before, and it's in the packet today, a resolution certifying one question adopted by this township board of township meeting for the March 17th, 2020 election. So what this township board needs to do is certify that question, and the question specifically was, which was adopted by the electors, shall Mchenry Township Fund operate and manage a Mchenry Township Senior and Disabled Transportation Program for all Mchenry Township Senior and Disabled residents, yes or no? That authority and that section is with written 30-205, which is requiring the Township Board to certify that question to the proper election authority. The proper election authority for McHenry County is the McHenry County Clerk. What this ordinance and resolution does further then, it authorizes the township clerk then to give this and certify this resolution to the McHenry County clerk in order to get that then on the ballot. It's a perfunctory action. It doesn't mean you agree with it. It doesn't mean you disagree with it. All it does is saying this is a question that's going to get put to a ballot, and whether it's voted for or not in favor of it doesn't mean it goes into effect. It's just a question. But it is a requirement of this board to certify that question, and I would ask this board to then adopt at least this resolution for tonight and authorize the township clerk to then pass it on to the McHenry Township clerk for submission for election.
Well, we need not do this tonight. It can be done at a later point, correct?
Yes, it could be done at another time.
It has to be done so many days before the election. What is that, Mr. Otto?
It has to be delivered by January 6, 2020. It would be my recommendation if it's not done in November, December at the very latest. There is a time frame on that.
I would like to make a motion that we adopt this tonight because, gentlemen, you don't really have a choice on this. The voters spoke.
Well, do we have a choice? Because otherwise, why are we even voting?
We do have a choice. Why do we have a choice? We have to accept it.
You have a choice to adopt it tonight if you want to.
We don't have to adopt it.
The statute provides that the board shall certify the question to the proper election. So it requires you to certify. It's a perfunctory function saying we have to certify this question to the McHenry County clerk. So it is a function to something you have to do. Whether you do it tonight or next meeting, that's up to the board, but it would be my recommendation that you at least do that.
I think what our attorney is saying, if you don't do this, there's legal consequences.
Which you already have.
Well, how do we, I'd like an explanation as to why there was such a dramatic shortfall in votes between the two propositions that were voted on at the annual meeting. And I have questions about whether there was adequate checks, if these people were even, look, if you're not going to agree the trust.
Mr. Vera, this is not even a question on tonight. You're trying to say that the annual meeting was not correct or just or whatever. It's not in your, you can't even talk about this. It's not on the agenda. I can tell you that it was correct, it was legal, and the attorney can comment on that.
Oh, really? Can the attorney verify that everybody from Mchenry Township was only allowed to vote?
I can certify that because we checked, everybody checked in the door and wrote on the list. And if you would like to have a copy of the list, Mr. Drew, to check the roll, be happy to give it to you.
Well, then perhaps there's an explanation. Perhaps there's an explanation as to this 40-vote shortfall.
Some people didn't vote the second time or the first time. I can't make everybody vote, Mr. Vera.
I can make an observational comment on that. Having been appointed parliamentarian, I did see a number of people leave the meeting, not as a result of, for one reason or another, but I believe because of the hour of the meeting is getting later, and I believe there was some issues regarding driving at night. So I did view individuals leaving because of that. So there was an exodus of some individuals, so that may account for the difference in the number of votes.
Thank you. I made a motion to certify this to the election authorities. Would the clerk to certify it? May I have a second to this motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wojcicki. I would like a roll call vote. Mr. Adams, yes. Mr. Anderson?
No.
Mr. Rakestraw?
Yes.
Mr. Wojcicki?
Yes.
Mr. Vera?
Yes.
Okay. It is a certified question that will be on the ballot. All right, next on the...
As a final matter, I'd like the clerk to correct the spelling mistake.
Where is the spelling mistake?
Now, therefore, is resolved.
Oh. Okay, we will correct the spelling mistake. Thank you, Mr. Reardon. Okay, moving on. We have a question regarding the Mchenry Township park shelter deposit and shelter fees. Let me explain this. We were asked by an outside entity why we are charging a shelter fee or a shelter deposit fee. We do not charge township residents a shelter fee. We do charge them a deposit fee so they leave the shelter in the same condition they received it, so they don't leave a bunch of garbage and stuff in there, and the township has to clean it up at an expense and also pay the garbage company and take it away. If it is left in the same condition that they brought it in it, they get their shelter fee back. So they are not charged a fee for the shelter. Currently, non-residents are charged a fee for the shelter. I will let Mr. Miltello again explain that.
We received a request regarding some explanation regarding residences versus non-residents of the township and why there's a fee and there's not a fee. We explained to them that there's provision within the statute when you receive property, public property, and there's outside, it can be considered free. There's also, I pointed out, that you can charge for recreational and institutional programs. There's a section within the township code that specifically allows for that. However, it was an item that was brought up to our attention. I believe it's then put on the board's the agenda for tonight. So it's just something to think about for discussion and whether or not you want to take action on it next time. But it's a matter of whether or not you want to charge that fee for the shelter or not for the non-resident township. Again, the code provides that you can charge a fee. You don't have to, but you can if you want to.
And my assertion is if you're non-resident, you should pay a fee. If you're resident, you already paid for the parks, and you shouldn't pay a fee. Any discussion? I need a motion to talk about this. I'll motion to talk about it. Seconded by Mr. Anderson. Discussion.
What was the agency that contacted you?
It appeared to be an organization called, excuse me if I mess this up, Edgar County Watchdogs. And they were asking information about the two differences between charging a fee and not charging a fee. And so I provided the statutes and the section which authorized the township to do that.
So we advised them, Mr. Miltel did, that we would discuss this tonight and get back to them with our decision. But what I'm hearing from Mr. Tull is we have every legal right to charge a fee for a non-resident, and I think I would agree with that. I don't know who wouldn't. So
I agree with it. I'm not so sure $50 is enough.
well, that's another discussion another time.
I think we can look at that number.
We can look at that another time. I agree with you. Okay, is anybody else in opposition to that?
I'm just asking a question. Sure. I feel very strongly, whether you're a resident of this township or not, if you're using facilities, you shouldn't be allowed to use them without a fee just because you're a resident, because it's an asset. And I think we should look at it as an asset. It doesn't have to be a big amount, but I think it's certainly within the realm of our doing business to charge a fee for a resident. Maybe a lesser fee, but a fee.
Yeah, Mr. Rickstra, I don't necessarily disagree with that. We can look at that next on another agenda if you'd like. My contention is that the residents of Mchenry Township are paying for this park and their property taxes every month, every year, so they should be able to use them for free. That's my opinion. But if the board chooses different, that's up to you guys.
Well, why don't we table this for the next meeting, and in the interim.
Use the mic.
The mic doesn't work. Here.
I move that this matter be tabled for the next meeting and put on the agenda for action, possible action. And in the interim period, the supervisor to come up with a plan of how much it costs to maintain these shelters on an annual basis and how many people actually use them. That would give the board an idea of what to do about charging.
Is that a motion, Mr. Mayor?
That's a motion to table.
Okay, do I have a second to a motion to table?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Rakestraw.
So we need a roll call vote. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Rakestraw.
Yes.
Mr. Adams, yes. Mr. Wojcicki.
No.
Mr. Vera. Okay. We will table it till the next meeting, and I will come back with the best numbers I can provide. Thank you. Okay, we're done with new business. Moving on to old business. We have Jessup Manufacturing requesting their request for real estate abatement and incentive agreement by Mchenry Township and Mchenry Township Permanent High Road and Mchenry Township Road District. I asked at the last meeting for a couple considerations and from Jessup, so that I believe the board kind of pointed this out. One, that they are the people that stay, the current owners, which is the family, are the ones that stay in business for 5 years, and if they don't and they transfer the ownership, the abatement would stop. Mr. Miltel, you have an agreement in your packet.
I received an agreement late yesterday from Doug Martin from the city. I had been in contact with the city attorney and advised him of the concerns that the township had regarding those items. They did get back to us. They did incorporate those provisions into the agreement, providing that considered clawback provision, saying in the event the developer agrees to repay all property tax abatements referred in the agreement, if they ever cease business or decide to move. The other concern was that whether or not those incentives could be passed on to somebody else. And that was also added into the agreement under successors, that this agreement is not assignable or transferable by the developer, so that was something else. So they've complied with what we requested, and I'm satisfied as to the content of the agreement.
I am also satisfied with the content of the agreement. The reason we wanted that is we didn't want this to end up being like, not that it's that much money, but like a Motorola, they get a tax incentive, they leave, and the tax incentive is not returned to the taxpayers. Jessup is a company that's been in Mchenry since 1956, I believe. Robert Jessup is here tonight. I dealt with his father for many years, and he doesn't even know this. My father was his printer to his grandfather years ago for invoices for Jessup Manufacturing. So they've been in Mchenry forever. They're a good neighbor. They're a good employer. This is going to create jobs. If the trustees have any questions for Mr. Jessup, the current owner, would you address them to him? Could you come up to the microphone, sir?
Sure. Mr. Jessup, could you tell me how long you have been in that facility?
We've been in that facility since 1957. My grandfather started it in 1956 here in Mchenry.
And what exactly do you do?
We manufacture adhesive-coated films that are used for safety and visual warning.
We manufacture adhesive-coated films
that are
used in the graphics marketplace as well as safety applications.
Yeah. I'll just talk really loud.
Okay, I'm going to assume that you don't have a desire to move. This is really just a benefit to expand your business here in Mchenry.
I have no desire to move. Mchenry has been home to Jessup Manufacturing from the beginning. And look around the room, the passion that Mchenry has. Regardless of how contentious this issue is, we made it the last 2 hours. There's much about passion in Mchenry. It is the people in McHenry County that have made Jessup successful for the last 63 years. I do not want to leave.
But how many additional employees will be as a result of this expansion?
We project between 15 and 20 additional employees, and hopefully many more.
Are they entry-level employees, or are they blue-collar, white-collar?
It'll be all levels. Part of this plan is to add 30,000 square foot of manufacturing, so it'll be both production facilities, our production employees, but we're also going to double the size of our office, so we're going to be centralized in our corporate headquarters here as well.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
I have some comments.
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
First of all, I did agree with you to put this together to make sure that they stay here, but after the last meeting was posted on the agenda for action, I did a little research after that, and I got a few things that kind of bothered me a little bit. But I did go to Mchenry County Office of Assessments, and I found out there was 58 parcels that are industrial in Mchenry Township. I also found that there's commercial, 1,484. And I feel like, wow, if we give an abatement here, what are we sending a message out to these other businesses, industrial business or commercial businesses? And then I also went over your tax bill, and I noticed that you have 10 taxing bodies on your bill. You got McHenry County, McHenry Conservation District, College District 528, which is McHenry County College. I got School District 15, School District 156, Fire District, Library District, City of McHenry, McHenry Township Road District. And for my position as being a tax activist, I think that business such as yours or other businesses, commercial business, industrial businesses, need to start looking at what can we do to reduce the size and cost of all these governments. There will be no real tax relief as time goes along as we've got all these taxing bills on our property tax bills. And I would like to see some kind of commitment from your company or other these companies to say, let's take a look at that. Let's put some of these government bodies on the ballot. So we're talking about school district. Now, I have no problem with school district consolidation. I have no problem with townships and consolidation there. But somebody's got to tell me how we can continue to have people that live in this county and continue to pay for all these taxing bodies.
Mr. Anderson, thank you for your comments. I understand them. We're talking about creating jobs, keeping people in the Mchenry Township, Mchenry area, which will return, pay other property taxes, which help fund all these entities. And Jessup is only asking for this for a 5-year period. After that 5-year period, they're going to pay their full boat. I think it's a reasonable request.
And maybe the other point to make, we're not asking for you to reduce anything. We will continue to pay what we've been paying up through the most current tax bill. What we're asking is to freeze the increase so that we can invest. And at the end of this, when we get this investment and get reassessed within 5 years, our taxes will be going up 150%. So you will get that additional revenue to reduce the impact on the residential.
But also, if your expansion is supposed to be 6.3 million, so that's EVA of $1 million or $2,100,000. So if you take your tax rate, which somebody gave me this figure, is your tax rate 11.46?
No. First off, there's that $6.3 million number has got things besides the building into it. So there's site prep costs, which will not go into my EVA. So essentially our number is based on about a $3 million building to equalize value of $1 million.
So what do you think the building itself would the building itself, how much do you think you'll be spending on the building itself?
These numbers that we presented are based on $3 million.
$3 million building, the rest of it is site work and stuff like that.
One of the extraordinary costs we have is we do not have water. Water ends about 1,000 feet directly west of us. So we, at our own expense, are taking the water across 3 parcels before it comes to us.
Right, that was brought up at the last meeting. Yeah.
Right. That's an extraordinary expense. We're willing to make that investment to stay in Mchenry.
And I'd like to point out that will might encourage other manufacturers or businesses to come in because they can hook up to the water cheaper at that point in time, which will increase the tax base. So I think it's a good deal for all of us.
Mr. Jessup, I really do believe that you need to, have you begun to put the water or start bringing the water into your facility, or is that still an agreement that you haven't made yet with the city?
All the agreements are in place with the city.
Did you get any kind of an agreement where if the water is expanded east of you, that you would be able to get some sort of a rebate from the city for doing that?
No.
How come you didn't do that?
Because that wasn't available. What we did is we had to waive all the recapture for the parcels to the west of us. We had to waive it, or they wouldn't have given us the easements.
So that was a City of McHenry thing, okay, not everything.
And east of us is not the city of McHenry.
Thank you.
East of you, yeah, east of you, okay.
East of you is Lakemore, maybe? Yeah. Or unincorporated?
It's unincorporated.
Unincorporated. It's unincorporated.
In all likelihood, once the water is there, the ability to use those parcels for expansion for commercial uses is actually going to increase significantly, don't you think?
I can't comment on that. I'm not a zoning and development expert for the county.
That's a whole nother issue that we're not know. So I would make a motion, unless there's any further discussion, Mr. Bear.
Still in the discussion phase. So as of tonight, which of the 10 taxing bodies have approved the agreement, if any have not approved, which ones are those?
No one has said no. We have been approved by I didn't bring the list with me. City of Mchenry, Library, Fire, District 156. We're on the ballot with 15 for 2 weeks. McHenry County College, we have a meeting next week. That's all of them, yeah. And the McHenry County has approved it as well.
Now, either Mr. Jessup or Mr. Militello, can you remind us, does every single taxing body have to agree?
They don't have to agree.
All right, so how much money?
$797.
To the township? That's all we're talking about?
That's all we're talking about. Actually,
per year.
And let's be clear, $797 is what they pay right now to the township. The total bill that Jessup is paying for 2018 was $74,828. Of that number, $797 came to the township. Of that number, we're talking, and correct me if I'm wrong, the expansion amount, you're anticipating about a $117,000 bill increase, approximately.
Yep.
And so, what does that mean for the township? If the abatement takes place, then in 5 years you anticipate $1,252 increase for a total of $2,050 for the township.
Exactly right. And you will continue to collect that $797. They're off that course. In 5 years, an additional $1,200 will be collected.
Correct. It's not a great deal of money to the township. It is money, but we should recapture that in people in property taxes continuing or moving to the township, hopefully, to take those jobs. So, and then in 5 years, we get the full boat back, gentlemen. And I think I remember a number of, for all 5 years, was it $5,661? Is that correct? $6,000 approximately for all 5 years. We're not talking a great deal of money, plus it may be recaptured on other things, and at the end of the 5 years, we get it all. Any further discussion?
Well, on this clawback version on point 3, on page 2, says during the term of this agreement. But that's never actually spelled out in the recital. So when does the 5 years start? When they've actually completed the project and get freeze it at that point for the reassessment? Or does the 5 years start this year?
The freeze starts once the construction starts and the building develops. So it'll be 5 years from the start of permits, I would assume, when they're getting pulled.
And so these figures that are presented to us, were these specifically for the town or the city of McHenry? Or are they for everybody? Like C, equalized assessed evaluation in 2018.
The agreement was revised. Some of the units of government that received it in advance of the township, correct me if I'm wrong, but this agreement was modified as a result of the townships and concerns that the township had. Some of the other taxing bodies already approved the prior agreement that did not provide for those items.
That's correct.
Am I correct?
It's been approved as is by everybody else. We added those provisions into the agreement that you asked for at the last meeting.
Okay. So in essence, those other individuals don't have to abide by those agreements that you have with the township. It would be a separate agreement with the township.
They're all separate agreements, to my understanding.
Any further discussion with Mr. Jessup? Okay, if there's no further discussion.
Just one more.
Go ahead, Mr.
On C, it says the 2018 equalized assessed evaluation of the subject property is, I guess that's supposed to mean $652,950, right?
Yes, that, let me just pull up.
So is that actually the equivalent figure on page 2, number 2, the subject property that exceeds 2018 base amount of $74,828.35.
Okay, so, just back up, I think it might have been a typo from the city when it came over. They provided a 21-page document that laid out those amounts. That assessed valuation of the property should be $652,950, so that is a typo by the city, which means approximately $1,678,000 in value. So that's an assessed value, $652,950.
So, if the township board agrees with this, that's going to be correctly the figure that's on page 2.
We would go back and ask that figure to be corrected, yes.
What I would do is just, as you approve it with the amendment, that the item C be reflected as $652,950.
And if we pass this, we'll pass it with that change. Any other questions?
If the other bodies don't agree to it, are you still going to go ahead?
I can't comment on it. This is important to us. It helps us cash flow this thing so we can afford to build it. It's an important consideration in our decision. And I ask you for your support, please.
Okay.
And would we tell all the other commercial and industrial outfits that say, why are you giving special treatment for justice?
Because they're going to create jobs, Mr. Bear, and help our community, and I'm thankful for that. I am making a motion to make a vote on this Jessup tax real estate abatement and incentive agreement. That we make a vote. May I have a second to that? With the amendment of $652,950 and item C, I believe it is.
I'll vote in favor of it.
I'm just making a motion to make a vote.
I'll second.
Second it. I'm going
We don't even know, are we voting yes or no?
Voting yes means that you're going to approve the abatement and incentive. Voting no means you will not. Is that clear? Okay, so a yes vote means you will agree with this abatement and incentive for Jessup Manufacturing. Okay, I have a first and a second. No further discussion. I'm going to call the vote. Okay, I'm going to vote first. Yes. Mr. Anderson.
No.
Mr. Rakestraw.
Yes.
Mr. Wojcicki.
Yes.
Mr. Bear.
No.
Okay, we have 3 yeses. Motion passes. Thank you.
Mr. Adams, will be recognized.
Mr. Payne, you may be recognized.
Does that only apply to the township portion and not the road and bridge and the permanent hard road?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it does. Okay, moving down the agenda. The Fox Waterway request for funds for Watershed Development Plan discussion and possible action. I'll be honest, gentlemen, I've had no communication with the Fox Watersway regarding this request. I would recommend we vote no. They should come to this meeting and tell us why they need this. They haven't even given us the consideration to do that or give me a phone call. So I don't understand at this point in time, so I don't understand what benefit it is to the township. So my recommendation at this point in time, unless they will come to our meeting and explain this to us, I would recommend to vote no.
I make a motion that we vote no.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Rakestraw to vote no. I will second that motion. Is there any discussion? Okay, no discussion. Let's have a roll call vote. Mr. Anderson.
No.
Mr. Rakestraw.
No.
Mr. Adams, no. Mr. Wojcicki.
No.
Mr. Bear.
No.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, moving down the agenda. Proposed agenda for next month's meetings. Are there any from the board?
Where are we on the newsletter?
We're still working on it. We're with all the things that have been going on in the township, it's taken a back seat, I'll tell you the truth. I'm hoping to have something going in the next month and a half. And I promise you I will let you know when that will be so you can submit an article.
And the noxious weed ordinance that was recently adopted? Has there ever been any action on that?
It was taken out by the board before you, and it was reinstated by the board before you came back. And yes, we are with a lot of complaints, and we're addressing them. We've had more complaints than we've ever had, I'm sure due to all the rain and the growing of the grass this year. And they're being addressed and taken care of.
Does that mean that people are actually been given notices to appear and so on?
We don't provide a notice to appear. We provide 3 notices for them to take care of the situation. If they do not take care of the situation after the 3rd notice, we let them know we're going to cut the grass and put a lien on the property, and it's referred to Mr. Militel's office where he does put a lien on the property.
So as of tonight anyway, it hasn't reached that point for anybody in the township?
I can't answer that question.
As of tonight, there was 1.
Most people, Mr. Ver, do comply after notices, but occasionally, the problem is there's a lot of foreclosure still out there, and the banking companies, the mortgage holders do not care. They will allow a lien to be put on the property because they don't care. They'll just get it paid off when they eventually sell the properties. That's the reality of the situation. And we do recoup those costs once the property is sold. Okay, we're still on proposed agenda items for next monthly board meeting. Are there any?
Well, this whole thing about the contracts, the intergovernmental agreement contracts, and then contracts with various and sundry vendors that are outside the usual course. You know, we don't need to have the contract for the electrical and all of that kind of thing. It's all of the unique contracts that are not recurring.
Okay, Mr. Militel has taken note of that. We said we'd bring that back to the next board meeting, so there was a clarification. Thank you, Mr. Bear. We will put that on the next board meeting agenda. Any other items?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Redstrom.
I would like to know approximately how we stand on repairs that we've been talking about for a year, I think, and where they stand.
I will be happy to provide a report at the next meeting for that. The Whispering Hills Community Club is, we're to the point where we can we took the sidewalks out because it was water affecting the building, as you pointed out. We have the bricks, we had to let the land settle with all this rain and gravel. They're ready to be laid any day now at this point in time. And the only other item there to be finished is that we have the windows, we just have to install them. It will be done before winter, I can guarantee you that.
Well, I'd like to see some real action on that because we've really been talking about this forever, it seems like. Second thing is, I asked that you put forward something that will show the impact of all these extra taxes that the state of Illinois has increased and how it will affect township government. Do you remember that?
I do not recall that, and I guess I would need clarification on what you're asking me for.
Well, just taxes, increases on the fuel, cost of registering vehicles, things of that nature, all these things that are...
Well, I can clarify most of that for you right now. The only thing that the Mchenry Township will benefit for is the motor fuel vehicle tax, which Mr. Conley can comment on. Other than that, any of these other raises the state has done is going to have no effect on our budget at all. That the state is going to take those monies in.
Mr. Adams, if you'd like me to comment.
Yes, I would like you to comment, Mr. Conley.
I just came back from a summer seminar in Peoria, and the gentleman from IDOT was there, and everybody was eagerly awaiting what we would receive in additional funds from MFT, and they couldn't tell us that. They didn't know. They made projections, but until the money comes in, they really can't tell us. So he did not have an answer for how much additional funds we would be getting, which is kind of surprising. But there is some talk that hopefully our MFT funds that we currently have right now, in the end, will double from what we have right now. I suspect it won't be that high, and it'll probably be closer to 50% more or 75% more. But there is no definite answer right now.
Okay, lastly, we talked a long time ago about putting together some sort of organization that would oversee putting signs on the baseball fields. Where do we stand on that?
We stand on that. I have approached Mr. Gontallo on that. He was doing research on a 501(c) corporation that would be separate from the township. Could be called Friends of the Township Park, something to that effect. We've just basically started looking into it. That would be the way for us to, that organization could go out and do fundraising, etc., and donate money back to the township parks. The township itself cannot do that, is my understanding. So this would be a vehicle to do that, and the residents of the township would be involved in that, and the baseball teams, the soccer teams, etc., would all be involved in that. And it's interesting that you asked that question. I want to set up a park advisory committee within the next 3 months, representing somebody from the board, somebody generally from the community, and all these groups that use our parks to advise us what they would like to have done, etc., and how they can also help. Does that answer your question?
Yes. I would just like to, ensure that we see some action on this thing, because I think it's a good idea, and I think it will help the taxpayers.
In this instance, I 100% agree with you, and I think our best avenue is to have Friends of the Township Park that can help contribute to maintain the park and create improvements that would not be taxpayer monies that would come from other sources. That's where I'm moving.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else you want on the agenda for next month? The only thing I've heard at this point in time is contracts. Okay, let's move on then. You have the supervisor's report, the park report, the general assistance report, and the senior center report in your packet. Is there any questions regarding those reports?
On general assistance, I look at some of those numbers. It just seems like you're dealing with an awful lot of clients, and not very many people are getting any aid out of there. You had this year?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Denied, you 6 active.
I'd be happy to give you the reality. The Department of Human Services sets the standards on who qualifies for general assistance and who does not. You have to be extremely poor to qualify, almost have no income.
You've told me that before, and I understand what you said before. But is there anything that can be done to change that, make it more efficient? Does it have to be something done with state legislation? It doesn't, it seems, I don't know how much administrative time is spent on that, or dollar-wise, but it doesn't seem right when you have 83% are denied and only 72% get any aid out of that.
How am I going to phrase this? I wouldn't disagree with you in some instances, but the reason the rules are set in place, and I think there could be some changes with the legislature through the Department of Human Services, but we're guarding the taxpayer. We don't want to give somebody $305 a month if they're not really in need of it. Could the requirements be loosened up a little bit? I'd certainly tell you yes. There is a lot of paperwork involved. Those standards could be changed. I would be open for the legislature changing those. The majority of our work, as you can see from our assistance, comes in emergency assistance. That comes to people to keep them in their homes. They don't qualify for general assistance, but they do qualify for emergency assistance through also income qualification levels. But this very week, ComEd decided to shut off like 20 people in our township for their utility bills. So guess what? We had 20 people call us. Now they're not all going to qualify. We had one gentleman who decided to go to Las Vegas on vacation. Guess what? He didn't qualify because he made that choice. But a lot of the other people did qualify, and we give them help to keep their utilities on so they stay in their house. But we are looking at them. We're not just giving somebody, as an example, that went to Las Vegas, made this choice not to pay his utility bill and to go to Las Vegas, okay? So we are we are being critical of those, okay? So, could there be changes? Bob, I wouldn't disagree with you. The General Assistance Handbook is about this thick, and I totally agree there could be some changes in law.
So in other words, general assistance is more cost effective, is that correct?
General assistance is very cost effective for the township.
Compared to emergency. No, excuse me, is emergency system more cost effective than general assistance?
I would say yes, even though we spend a larger amount of money
I'm
on
not
it.
talking about, yeah, but.
Yes, I would, because we're keeping those people in their home.
That was my point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, we're keeping those people in their home. They only can get help once every 12 months. They can't come back every month, okay? And by keeping them in their home, we keep them out of the homeless shelters, where it's going to cost the community a lot more money, okay? So yes, I believe that is more efficient.
I think I'm going to look at that with somebody.
That's fine. I'm happy to look at that, and I will tell you a suggestion I have right now, and I'd be happy to do this. I believe, and I think you know this, we handle general assistance through intergovernmental agreement for Burton Township and Richmond Township. I believe, and actually we also help Greenwood Township too, come to think of it.
What township?
Greenwood. But I believe instead of every township doing this, we should have centers such as Mchenry Township handling a group of townships. Maybe Door Township handling a group. See what I'm saying? So we could group it, the consolidation of emergency assistance. I'm all for that. The only small problem with that is some of these people won't be able to get there. If you're out in Hebron, how are you going to? You have to physically be there to sign some documents, etc. That would be the small problem, but I think we can overcome that somehow. Through a bus service or through a taxi system. Through some other way to get them there, but I really believe in, what would you call it, distribution centers to do this.
Thank you.
And it would reduce costs for everybody. Okay.
Well, some questions about it.
Sure.
On the Mchenry Township 2019 Senior Center report.
And the 2019 Senior Center report, yes?
In the future, would it be possible that everybody that comes gets a copy of these things so they know what we're talking about?
For all the public to get a copy?
Yes.
Sure.
Is it available online?
It's available online. Everybody can look at it online.
But it would cost you money.
It costs us money to print it out. I'm just saying it is available online. You know.
It's just hard to talk about these things and nobody knows what we're actually talking about.
How about this? I'll provide a few copies at the door for those people that can't access it via online.
All right, so as far as the 2019 Senior Center report, what does units mean?
Units is every time they receive a activity, such as they come to play bingo, that's a 1 unit. They come for exercise class, that's another unit. It's every different activity that they're participating in at the senior center.
So one person could actually do 3 or 4 per visit?
Not per visit, because they don't offer 3 or 4 in a day. No. They probably could only do 1, possibly 2 in a single day.
And what does UNDUP mean?
Unduplicated. Those are the numbers, so those top numbers for activities could be the same person as you're just asking me over the course of a month. Unduplicated is the number of seniors, individual seniors participating in programs, not duplicated.
Okay. Now, on the 2019 bus monthly report for Mchenry Township, that's a separate page. You have new riders on there, TBD. What does that mean?
It needs to be determined, and we could determine it monthly if the board would like. The reason we don't is it's a yearly statistics that our grants want, but if you would like to see it monthly, we can change that. Those will be new and unique riders per each month.
So you're supposed to be keeping track of it?
I do keep track of it on a yearly basis because that's all that's required of me, but if you would like to keep track of it on a monthly basis, I can do that.
I'm just trying to figure out what it means, TBD.
To be determined at the end of the year when I have to report to the grants. To be determined.
And my question was, why wasn't it known? How do you go back?
Because we have all the statistics, so we go back and count, but we could do it on a monthly basis. We just don't, and if you would like us to do that, I have no issue with that.
All right, now, but if it
senior is also disabled. How is it recorded on here?
A senior is not and also disabled. You're either a senior or you're disabled. You can't be both.
So who determines where you go?
Our bus drivers and Pace determines, so if she's a senior, which she is, and she's also disabled, but she counts as a senior first. Okay?
So if you're both, you don't qualify.
If you're both, we don't put you down as both. You should, but it's not our requirements, it's the state requirements. Okay, it's how they track it.
So if they're senior and disabled, they count as a senior only.
That is correct.
And disabled is everybody who's disabled but not a senior.
That would be correct, I believe, but I have to double check. I believe that is correct. There are a lot of younger people that are disabled that ride our bus, that are not seniors.
All right, now flipping to the final page, Mchenry Township General Assistance and Emergency Assistance Report. Where it says total distributed 68,957 at the very bottom right hand.
I'm not looking at it myself, but is that total with Salvation Army? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and that really shouldn't be since it's not township money.
Okay, I can separate that out and keep Salvation Army separate if you would like that. I can do that.
Well,
Salvation Army should be separated from that number because that is not township funds. You're correct.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions regarding my reports? None being heard. And I want to move on to the assessor report. Mary, could you come up and give us your report, please?
Mr. Adams, could I? Mr. Adams?
Yes, Miss Behavior, excuse me. Yes, here, come get this one. We are having an issue, we're working on changing this, so. Here.
Can I be recognized to ask Mr. Milton a question?
You may be recognized as Mr. Milton.
I'm just curious because I don't really know the details of Robert's rules, but when there's a tie in a vote, doesn't the clerk break the tie?
No. Only in the,
I'm asking for clarification. A couple people have asked about it because it was a 2-2 vote. And I'm just asking, so if you could clarify that, that would be appreciated.
the clerk. The clerk only gets to vote if there's a tie on replacement of a trustee. That is correct. Or
replacement of maybe.
Just checking because I was asked. I didn't know the answer. So. Okay, basically, as far as assessments go, we have turned in our numbers, so I anticipate that the assessment notices, all the good news, will be coming out sometime in September. Could be before that, but at least in September. Until we get that publication date, we'll be continuing to prepare for appeals, which, seeing that this is a quadrennial year, and there's been a lot of changes made, we do expect that there'll be an increase in appeals. And also between now and then, we'll be working on, we've already received about 25 state appeals from 2018, which I'll be working on to respond. It's pretty quick though, quick turnaround. It used to be a couple of years before the state started to respond. Other than that, in my spare time, I'm giving a presentation on assessments and taxes to our local realtor organization tomorrow. And I'm planning to schedule that program to be presented to elected officials and the public either sometime this month or very soon, so that people can ask questions and find out more information about assessments and taxes. And I'm hoping especially elected officials will show up. But anyway, that's what's been going on. When anyone have any questions, happy to answer them.
Okay, none being heard.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. Let's move on to the Highway Commissioner's report.
I'll give you my written report, and it's getting late, so if anybody has any questions, I'm glad to answer that. I do want to point out, though, during the meeting, I didn't mean to be rude by walking out. we had a call from our answering service about a tree problem, so I apologize for having to leave and address that. If anybody has any questions on our report, our programs are moving forward. Hopefully get some construction done on some non-dedicated roads this year. So that's all that I have.
Okay. Any questions for the highway commissioners this time? I'm good. Okay, none being heard, let's, I'd like to, we are going to have to go to executive session. I would ask that we move past that now. And
We go on to any board member comments right now, are there any?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Rickstrom.
I'd like to address the second visitor's question, and I'd like to make a motion that we confine it to 1 minute rather than 3 minutes.
It's not on the agenda. We can move it to the agenda for the next meeting if you'd like, but right now it's not approved and we have to put it on the agenda. So.
It just doesn't seem necessary to go over a 3 minute to a 3 minute one at the end.
I understand what you're saying, but those are the current rules. So if you'd like that added to the agenda, we can talk about that in the next meeting. Okay. Do I have a second that would want to be added to the next meeting's agenda?
second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Let's have a vote. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Rickstrom? Mr. Adams, no. Mr. Wojcicki?
No.
Mr. Revere?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to add it to the next agenda. And if I understand this, you want to cut the comments at the end of the meeting to 1 minute each. Is that correct? Okay, we'll talk about it next month. Okay, any other board member comments? Okay, none being heard. Let's move on to public comments. Do we have any more public that would like to speak? Please, one at a time. Mr. Leon Van Avery, I see you first. Please come up.
Good evening. Some of you know that I was highway commissioner at one time from Mchenry Township prior to this time. I sat through this board meeting and I'm ashamed of these guys that are up here. We used to have a board meeting that was, if it went long, it was 8:30. Thank you. It would start at 7 o'clock, and if it was a long meeting, it went to 8:30. And there was never any yelling like went on up here. These fellows want to seem to cut costs, and I'm not picking on Mr. Militello. He's a great attorney. He would come maybe 4 times a year, something like that. When we had a special meeting to take in some non-dedicated roads or something like that, that was pretty much when Jim showed up. We didn't have to have him here for every meeting. He was here last meeting, Monday night, I think it was, or Tuesday night. He was here for that one for several hours. Here again tonight for several hours. If these guys could get along, I'm sorry, Jim, but if these guys could get along and get along with the public, they would save some money right there.
Yeah. You want to come back?
That hurt.
We could use 2 of them.
Okay, next gentleman, please give your name and where you live, the city.
Mike Guy, Mchenry. At this point, late hour, I'm probably just speaking to the choir here, but last Monday, our previous Mayor Lowe made some comments about the responsibility and duties of elected officials. Well, I think we've seen tonight and over the last couple of meetings, they've failed you, at least in relation to buses. So I think now, as voters and citizens, we all now also have a responsibility and duty. And that's number 1, get out and vote. And number 2, know who the hell you're voting for.
Except for Mr. Bird, who was not voted in.
Our order here or what?
No.
They're lining up. Please give your name and.
Kelly Erk, Muskegee Hammonds. On Monday I showed up, and Mr. Beer, I had to show my driver's license so they can look up my voter registration, which I am a voter, Republican, not Democrat. I vote faithfully Republican. I didn't vote for these Republicans, some of them. So that's how you know that the people that showed up on Monday were legitimate in voting, Mr. Mayor. And abstaining your vote doesn't remove judgment. Thank you.
Ed Hederman, Johnsburg. I would just like to, if the trustees could give this group some logic of why you would put it on the ballot as a referendum, but on the same time end it in November. I mean, what is the logic and the thinking of that? I'd just like to know. I think these people deserve an answer. And it's really makes no sense. It's been approved, the budget's been budgeted, appropriations are done, and you voted to stop it in November, but still put it on the ballot in March. Why wouldn't you just leave it go till March, see what these folks want, and then make a sensible, reasonable, logical decision? What you guys did tonight makes no sense at all.
Jamie Grubich, Mchenry. My suggestion to Mr. Adams for anything that has detailed numbers, can't you just project it onto the wall instead of making any kind of photocopies from the computer?
First, I can if you'd
Yeah,
like, but it's...
well, I'm just saying, don't
can.
make photocopies, just put it up like that.
Oh.
It doesn't cost any money and people can see what you guys are all talking about.
Very good idea. I will be happy to implement that.
So I have some questions about, like, there's no judgment here, it's just out of curiosity. There's 15 different townships. 17. 15 that either have one bus service or no bus service, and 2 that have 2. Could we just have one?
For everybody? No. No, we can't. We're not the same service.
Okay, so why don't we have a county service that works for everybody, or why aren't people complaining about the county?
Let's, Order, listen to her, please.
They don't have to listen to her.
If we are the model of efficiency and the best service, bus service, why aren't we helping the county so everybody gets helped?
It's not a question that... Excuse me. First of all, it's not a question we can answer. Also, you can't share funds with different townships at this point in time, according to the law.
Well, we're doing it on the general system.
We could do it with an intergovernmental agreement, and that's a good point.
I mean, I just don't understand how 15 townships, and you see Huntley and Algonquin, I mean, those are big. Crystal Lake, they have a lot of people. It's Richmond and Mchenry that have just 2 bus services. We only have 53,000 people combined.
Excuse me,
The rest have like 259,000. How do they manage?
Algonquin has a bus service.
One bus service.
Not one, I mean many, but yes.
Okay, they're not paying for McBride, right? Why are we paying for 2?
Well,
That's my question.
Because McBride can go out of the township bus cannot.
So McBride is a superior situation.
That's your opinion.
I mean, what do the people do that are in the other communities? Are they sitting on buses for 4 hours?
Please keep order.
I don't know. The distribution of the people in the county doesn't show that.
Okay, stop please. Do not comment, she can speak.
I'm just asking for someone to find out what these other communities do. Why don't we do best
Stop or I'm going to
practices
start
in the
throwing
county?
people out.
Respect only goes one way.
Respect goes both ways here.
I'm not asking anybody to incur any more hardship. I'm just wondering how other communities do it that are like neighbors of ours that manage. They have more money?
We don't have an answer for this, so...
Well, we do have an answer because Nunda and Grafton cut the programs 3 years ago.
Okay, first of all, Nunda did not cut their entire program, Steve. They still have a service.
For 2 people.
That's what they claim, I don't know.
Public
Oh, they're
comment,
lying.
public comment,
Okay,
not
okay,
debate.
I mean,
everybody.
the other question I have is like, why can't we come up with numbers that everybody agrees on what the costs
Okay,
are?
your time is over, please.
You know, I think the whole board should agree on what the numbers are for the township so that the taxpayers actually can, you know, have one set of facts.
Okay, the sites for the numbers for the township are, audited numbers are on our website. If the board disagrees with those, please tell them to come back with different figures and show me how they're wrong. They are correct.
I mean, I think that you guys should agree with the board, with the elected people, paid for by the taxpayers.
Okay, your time's up. Thank you. Next.
Mike Dolan, how's it going? On the lake. I'd like to take a moment here and address Trustee Anderson first, directly. Recently, there was a court case in the Second Circuit Court that found that the First Amendment does not permit a public official who utilizes a social media account for all manner of official purposes to exclude persons from otherwise open online dialogue because they express views in which the official disagrees. Now, I have some screenshots from your Facebook page where you're talking about costs of things in townships and you're talking about official township business. In fact, you call them township talk. I had to get those from somebody else because you have to be blocked. I suggest you unblock me. Otherwise, you've got three options as I can see it. You can either create another page that is exclusively for posting about township information, so you're no longer posting on your personal, and you can keep me blocked there. You can unblock everybody and continue posting where you are, or face a possible lawsuit.
Anybody else? Please state your name and where you live.
Linda Toller, Wonder Lake. I'm going to apologize if my voice shakes. I'm not used to public speaking. I just recently got interested in township politics. I've only been to a handful of these meetings, so I don't know how qualified that makes my personal opinion. I have very few times in my life felt the level of disappointment in the actions of people that I felt tonight. You gentlemen had the chance to extend the bus service 4 months and give a little goodwill to the people you're meant to represent at no additional cost, and you couldn't make that concession. I am frankly appalled at the personal attacks I heard made at each other and the unwillingness of a few of this board's members to bend at all. Township governments are supposed to be there for the people of their community. They're supposed to listen. They're supposed to do what is the will of the people they represent. I did not witness a township government tonight. I witnessed a couple of people who are interested in only getting what they want and to haze with everyone else. I am sorely disappointed. I hope you have considered the ramifications of your actions, gentlemen, and I truly hope you are prepared to explain your reasoning to those you have let down.
Brian McCaffrey from Wonder Lake. I also, along with many others, are sorely disappointed tonight. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak again at the end of the meeting. This part of the agenda that Bob Anderson wanted to cut out, didn't want to hear us. Now, there's a possibility that they want to cut us down to 1 minute. Another way, they don't want to hear us. Very disappointed. So we're going to have this referendum in March. It would be nice if it was binding. I don't know if that's possible. And then we'll find out. We'll find out who wants to keep the bus service and who doesn't. You've seen a preview of that non-binding referendum last Monday when everybody voted. That was a preview. You can see what's coming as far as that vote goes. Mr. Revere, twice you have insulted us. In a very demeaning way, you called us Democrats. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Some, I'm sure, are Democrats. Some are Republicans. But why would you use that? Why don't you say, oh, look, you're just nothing but a bunch of Republicans out there? Why? I just don't get that. But it sounded very demeaning, and I didn't appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of other people didn't either. So, Bobby Anderson, I've known you since I was a young man. Used to cut my hair many years ago. And Bob, I gotta tell you, I don't know what happened. You're a changed man. You honestly are. You sit on the board of Harrison School that takes up the largest chunk of my tax bill. Yet I don't see you in the newspapers saying anything about how we're going to cut that tax part. You want to cut taxes from one of the smallest parts of my tax bill. In fact, you want to cut $8 of my tax bill and deny all these people the opportunity to ride the township bus. Something happened, Bob. I don't know what happened, but you're not the same man. Thank you for this opportunity.
David York, the City Islands. I'm going to read something. I'm going to read part of the ADA, Title II, Public Entities and Public Transportation. Title II prohibits disability discrimination by all public entities at a local level, aka school district, municipal, city, or county, and at state level. Public entities must comply with Title II regulations by the Department of Justice, U.S. And these regulations cover access to all programs and services offered by the entity. Access includes physical access described in the ADA standards for accessible design and programmatic access that might be obstructed to discriminating policies and procedures of the entity. Title II applies to public transportation provided by the public entities through the regulations by the U.S. Department of Transportation. It includes the National Railroad Passenger Corporation, aka Amtrak, along with all other commuter authorities. This section requires the provision of paratransit services by public entities that provide fixed route services. The ADA also sets minimum requirements for space layout in order to facilitate wheelchair securement on public transportation. Title II also applies to all state and local public housing, housing assistance, and housing referrals. The Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity is charged with enforcing this provision. Meaning Beer, Rich Straw, and Anderson, you're violating on grounds of public transportation with the provision of paratransit services by public entities that provide fixed route schedules and minimum requirements for space layout to facilitate wheelchair securement in public transportation. And as everyone is told, MC Ride and Pace cannot provide what township can. I thank you all, and you three, good luck with the Attorney General.
Is there anybody else? Seeing nobody else? Is there? No, seeing nobody else? I'm going to ask that, I need a motion to recess this meeting so we can go to executive session.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Rakestraw, I'll second that motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, and then for reason, yeah.
Let the record reflect that it would be for three specific reasons. One's a miscellaneous exceptions, discussion of minutes of previous closed session meetings for purposes approved by the township, exception 2C21, business matters concerning sale of real estate owned by and setting price 2C5 and 2C6, and legal probable litigation 2C11.
Those are the statutes we're going into executive session for. You can stay if you want. All we're going to do is come back and adjourn this meeting after executive session. So that is up to you. Thank you.
That's really funny.
Do you have
No, yeah, it's right here.
I want to sign it. I want to get it. I want to make sure that it gets signed.
Here, you want to sign these? Oh, you're doing it now?
Yeah. I should do this.
Don't swear again, please.
Can I hold up for you?
Why? Okay, just all that. Yeah. I regret never getting involved. Where's the other one? Ditto. You're a grandstand. Your grandstand with the dollar bill. Oh, yeah. Now your grandstand. Yeah, he got you elected, didn't he? All right, good. I want to know. What did you sign this one? Bob, Mike signed it. Stan, just bring it in. Yeah, but that way you'll be sure of getting everyone.
So you got this one over here.
You should be ashamed for the I don't know that.
Am I on it?
This one's done.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm offering.
they're trying to save the township. Well, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the bus service. And I said, okay, well, you brought up this situation, and he said, well, yeah, but it had to do with disabilities. So are we going to go further or are we going to go?
I mean, I'm not sure where this goes, but I know this is going to be separate regarding nothing.
It isn't. It is. I know it's and unfortunately, all of us have to pay this because they're being sued. So now the township is being sued. And so if they would have just sat there and said, let's figure something out, let's keep it somewhere.
But I mean, like, I just don't understand why there are people that are, oh yes, I read that, so you do know that the state's going to buy a lot of townships.
Yeah. Okay, so
Why do 15 other townships not get 2 bus services? Well, it doesn't matter if you're a senior or just
why not all the students? Because they figured out a way to do that.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's on the stage. She's like, wait.
I was going to say Chicago was all of their kids. Everybody, not poor or rich. Everybody gets free meals. So extreme have learned how to do some things. But you have to do it's core political programs.
I mean, I would just like to see everything be more efficient.
Absolutely.
And for everybody. We got rid of township bus. And then you go to that service is paid under they cannot be added onto their service. You're not going to save anything on taxes and dial-around will not come in.
Well, you know we're being paid for.
Don't have the buses. The bus drivers are not allowed to get off the bus and help them onto the bus. Our township bus does that. I hear what you're saying. But you see, what you want to take is, do you want to take something from those people that live in the county? There have to be some. But if you want to run these wheelchairs, if you want to run some county bus service, you are at you need to go to the Mchenry County board meeting and go and talk to Jack Franks and say, I don't understand why you are not providing adequate bus service for Mchenry County citizens. Why are our disabled not being provided for and townships having to pick up and have other bus services that provide adequate bus services? 2 townships are providing additional bus services. We have a heart. Okay? Our prior board had a heart. They knew that dial-a-ride was inadequate, so they allowed this bus service to continue because it provides proper, adequate service. So what you're saying is, get rid of the bus service. I don't care about it. I didn't say that at all. I'm just wondering then what the other people do.
Besides,
It doesn't,
one was anointed in after one left.
you live in Mchenry Township. I do. Then you shouldn't worry about what the other townships do. But you should worry about all people that are handicapped. Then if you're that worried, like I said, you go to the Mchenry County Board meeting. That's where you need to go. If you are that worried, that concerned, well, where's your part? I'll go with you. When do you want to go? I'll be more than happy to go. Find it. I'll give you my phone number. I'll go with you. I'll ask somebody they are not providing. I'll tell them that our township is trying to get rid of bus service, and when they do, my child will not have bus service. Other people in the township will not have bus service, and you are not providing adequate bus service. I mean, I would think there should be a lot of people that have already complained. Like left and right, there's no accountability there.
Well, they're already trying to work out a plan, but I don't know, students are not part of it. All you know is that we need to push for that. But honestly, to me, this is the most important thing. And then beyond that, sure, I'll help anybody that needs being helped. But of course, I can't save the world, so I have to step up. And that's what we're doing. But I still, the thing
like, I don't understand why they can't say what the costs are, and all of those people agree. They've got an attorney, there's accountants, they should all agree.
And they put it all in there, and Steve Bird sat there and literally wrote all this information down. And
is it false information, or is it just direct and indirect costs not being appropriately accounted for?
No, it's 100%. It is 100%. They've been forthcoming. The board members have been forthcoming, except for Steve Bird. They really just went through it, and he was blurting out numbers, but like, that's not true. And he was like, okay, whatever.
He was like, I went to a lot of the budget meetings too.
And did you hear that there was numbers?
There have been different numbers all along.
On the bus, or on
everything.
So then that means this board in particular should be,
Have an accountant or agree on,
or just
Accounting
take it
rules.
off, because they are not appropriate to be on this board, and they shouldn't be.
I mean, maybe all of them should be replaced.
That's what I'm saying. We should
Even
have
Mr. Adams.
especially Mr. Bird, because he was not even voted in.
Good night. Have a good evening.
Yes, thank you, Stan.
Hello, hello.
Hello?
All works. They all work. We're working on a solution here. We don't know what's going on.
Is the officers getting this?
We do. It's something to do with their signals interfering with the light. Can you guys turn off your? Yes. So what we're gonna do is move the whole system under here, under the table in a box, so that should solve it. Because they go, bands do it. They go, yeah, because it's right next to the band. That's why. It took us several phone calls to figure this out.
Yes, sir.
I think it does do it. Everybody's online. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna need the bus to get to my car. Where's it? Way down? The way down.
You know, he's that guy that kind of.
You have to wait till tomorrow.
You have to wait till tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. when we start service. 7:30. I don't know what that is. Yeah, but give them the mic. We don't have to come all over. Yeah, don't come all the way. Stay there. Stay there.
Mike, you can stay there.
Stay there. We got everybody there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
I'm making a motion to first I'm making a motion to reconvene our meeting at 10:29. And a motion to reconvene. May I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wojcicki. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed? Okay. Now I'm going to make a motion to adjourn our regular meeting at, like, say, 10:30. All those, I need a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? None being heard. Our meeting is adjourned at actually 10:29 and a half, let's say. Okay?
10:29 and a half.
Well, we let her get there.
So you want to get on my contract on? Yeah. They're done already?
I said, you got block people.
They're done already?
Thank you.
If you block people, you go into your settings in Facebook and unblock. Because you can't, as a public official, post things about public business and block the public from it.
Yeah, I'll take that. But I don't know how, I can remember why, unless it was some kind of, I don't know. So how do I find your name? Do I put your name here?
It's in your preferences in Facebook. I could possibly show you, but I don't have a computer in front of me.
I'll work on it. I have to get my, I have to look up my call.
Caller, T-A-U-L-E-R.
Okay, I'll warn my grandkids.
Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Hey, Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Bob. You got the pen and give that to, oh, the pen is not mine. The pen is
I'll give it to, yeah, give it to.
That's why I stayed. He said he did not. Look at you being all helpful.
This even township